Sometimes the quietest questions in a relationship are the ones people are most afraid to ask out loud. And one of those questions is this: does masturbation affect relationship satisfaction? Not just in theory, not just as a fun conversation online, but in the real world, in your emotional connection, your trust, your communication, and the way you show up for each other. This question tends to hit deeper than people expect, because it isn't actually about the act itself. It's about meaning, it's about attachment, and it's about the stories we tell ourselves when we feel disconnected, insecure, or unsure about what intimacy is supposed to look like. And if you've ever wondered about this, you're definitely not alone. What do you think about this already? And has this question ever come up in your own mind or in your relationship? Share your thoughts in the comments. You never know who might need to hear your perspective. I'm the Intimacy Doctor, real talk, real science, real intimacy. And today, I want to untangle this topic with empathy, clarity, and evidence, so you can understand not just what the research says, but how it shows up emotionally in everyday relationships. When people ask whether masturbation affects relationship satisfaction, they're rarely asking about physical behavior. They're asking about emotional health, connection, trust, fear, attachment, the psychology of feeling chosen and important. And because relationships are made of stories and meaning, the impact of masturbation often changes depending on those stories. Some couples treat it as neutral, just a part of being human. Others see it as a sign of emotional distance or unmet needs, and others never talk about it at all, allowing silence to create confusion and insecurity. So let's explore this like two people sitting in a room having an honest conversation, without judgment, without shame, just clarity and compassion. One of the biggest truths relationship science teaches us is that behavior matters less than interpretation. Two couples can experience the same thing and walk away with completely different emotional reactions. For one couple, masturbation might feel like self-care and stress relief. For another, it might feel like rejection. If someone in a relationship associates their partner's self-pleasure with being not enough, or being replaced, or losing connection, then even neutral behavior can trigger emotional pain. These reactions often come from deeper layers, attachment patterns, communication gaps, or unresolved insecurities that haven't been shared openly. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the smallest thing becomes a symbol of something much bigger? If this resonates with you, tap the like button so more people can find videos like this. When researchers study masturbation and relationship satisfaction, they find mixed results, not because the research is contradictory, but because people are different. The meaning changes the outcome. But one consistent pattern shows up in the data. When couples communicate openly and honestly about their needs, habits, boundaries, and emotional experiences, the impact on satisfaction is usually positive or neutral. Openness shifts the emotional tone. Communication turns fear into understanding. It turns assumptions into clarity. It replaces insecurity with trust. And this is one of the first major insights that matters. Masturbation doesn't automatically weaken intimacy, but secrecy or avoidance often does. Silence creates distance, not the behavior itself. So many relationship problems come not from what partners do, but from what they're too afraid to say. Think for a moment. In your relationships, do conversations about personal habits feel safe or stressful? Have you ever held back a question because you didn't want to seem judgmental or insecure? Leave a comment if anything like that has ever happened to you. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. A second insight from psychology is that self-awareness plays a significant role in how masturbation affects relationships. People often use self-pleasure for different emotional reasons: stress relief, distraction, comfort, habit, or sometimes emotional escape. And when someone uses masturbation as an escape from relationship conflict, from emotional discomfort, or from uncomfortable conversations, that's where the real issue begins. Not because masturbation is harmful, but because it becomes a coping mechanism that replaces communication. Avoidance becomes the problem, emotional distance becomes the problem, and over time, partners may sense this distance without being able to put it into words. They may feel less chosen, less desired, less connected, even if nothing intentional was happening. This is where couples benefit most from slowing down and asking themselves deeper questions. What am I avoiding? What am I afraid to say? What needs are not being addressed? What emotional connection do I miss? Self-awareness transforms the dynamic. When you understand why you do something, it becomes easier to explain it to your partner, to set boundaries, or to adjust your habits so they align with the relationship you want. And partners who approach each other with curiosity instead of criticism tend to create healthier emotional connection and stronger trust. Another major insight from relationship science is the role of attachment patterns. People with secure attachment tend to interpret their partner's behaviors more accurately, with less fear. They think this is about stress relief, rather than this means I'm not enough. But for people with anxious or avoidant attachment styles, masturbation can trigger emotional reactions that feel overwhelming or deeply personal. Someone with an anxious attachment may feel threatened or fear abandonment. Someone with avoidant attachment may use self-pleasure to maintain emotional distance. Neither reaction makes someone bad. It just means there are deeper layers at play. The more a couple understands each other's attachment needs, closeness, reassurance, independence, safety, the easier it becomes to talk about behaviors without turning them into emotional threats. If you're still listening right now, it already shows you care about emotional intelligence and understanding yourself better. Tap the like button if this is helping you reflect. A fourth insight comes from studies on relationship, satisfaction, and sexual connection. Many researchers note that masturbation doesn't decrease satisfaction when couples maintain emotional intimacy, shared affection, trust, and healthy communication. In fact, in some cases, it can help people understand their own bodies better and communicate needs more clearly. But problems tend to appear when couples rely on assumptions instead of honesty, when partners build stories in their heads instead of asking questions, when conflict resolution takes a back seat and silence becomes the default. This is why emotional availability matters so much. When partners feel emotionally safe, these conversations become opportunities to strengthen connection rather than weaken it. But when emotional safety is missing, even small behaviors can feel like threats. So much of relationship health comes down to one question: do I feel safe being fully honest with you? If the answer is yes, intimacy grows. If the answer is no, distance grows. I want you to think about this for a moment. Have you ever avoided a conversation because you feared the reaction, or felt misunderstood because you weren't sure how to express something sensitive? Share in the comments if you feel comfortable. Your insight could help someone else feel understood. Another layer to this conversation is the role of expectations versus reality. So many couples carry unspoken beliefs about what intimacy is supposed to look like. Some believe partners should only be intimate together. Others believe personal autonomy is important. Others believe habits should be shared openly. None of these beliefs are wrong. They're simply different. But when couples never express these expectations out loud, emotional friction builds. That friction often turns into resentment or confusion, which can feel like emotional disconnect or lack of trust. The truth is that healthy relationships aren't built on perfect alignment. They're built on honest conversations about misalignment. When two people say, "This is what intimacy means to me," they create a shared understanding, and that shared understanding is what protects the relationship from unnecessary conflict. Let me ask you, in your ideal relationship, what does emotional connection look like? What does trust feel like? What does healthy intimacy mean to you personally? These questions matter more than any study or statistic, because your emotional experiences shape the meaning. As we go deeper, here's one more insight that's incredibly important. Masturbation is not a measure of desire for your partner. This is one of the biggest misconceptions that harms relationships. Desire is complex. It fluctuates with stress, sleep, hormones, mental health, routine, conflict, and emotional safety. People can love their partner, feel deeply attracted to them, and still engage in self-pleasure for reasons unrelated to partnership. Treating it as a rejection often creates unnecessary hurt. Treating it as a topic for open conversation creates clarity and closeness. When couples talk honestly about frequency, boundaries, comfort levels, emotional triggers, and expectations, something incredible happens. Shame dissolves, fear dissolves, misinterpretation dissolves. Couples begin to see each other more clearly, not as threats, but as partners, as allies, as people with needs, habits, and emotions that deserve understanding. And when that happens, relationship satisfaction usually increases, not decreases. Before we wrap up, I want to invite you to reflect on one simple question. What kind of emotional climate do you want your relationship to have? One built on avoidance, or one built on curiosity, honesty, compassion, and growth? Take a moment, think about it. Then share your thoughts in the comments. Someone else might find courage in your words. If this video has helped you reflect on your emotional health, your communication skills, or your relationship patterns, tap the like button so more people can find videos like this and feel supported on their journey. And if you want more conversations about intimacy, trust, communication, emotional intelligence, relationship science, and the psychology of connection, I invite you to subscribe to the Intimacy Doctor. Turn on notifications so you never miss new videos designed to help you build healthier, safer, more fulfilling relationships. And if you're ready for your next step, watch the next video. We're diving into how emotional avoidance quietly destroys relationships and how to rebuild connection with small, powerful changes. It's deeply connected to what we talked about today, and it might shift the way you see your relationships forever.